Hello, and welcome to the Let Them Live podcast. I'm Emily Burning, your host, and also the president and co-founder of Let Them Live. We bring you interviews with unsung heroes and inspiring individuals who are in the fight to save babies, mothers, and fathers from abortion. Our goal is to amplify their voices and bring their stories to the forefront, shedding light on the incredible work they do and the lives they touch. This is more than just a podcast. It's a platform that allows everyone to share their pro-life stories and inspire us to passionately continue advocating for life. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Let Them Live podcast. I am so excited for our guest today, Mrs. Haley Schaefer, and she runs an amazing organization called Abundance Ministries. And I'm so excited for you to hear from her today. I think it's so important on this podcast to give a platform to other organizations because this movement is a movement of many organizations. And so I hope to use this platform to gain more followers and, support for abundance. So welcome, Haley. Thanks for being on.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So why don't you just get us started? I mean, I know, a lot about you. We've become very close, but, let's let everyone learn about you. So what's your pro-life story? Like, what's your background? How did you get involved in pro-life work? What's the deal with that?
Yeah. So, my pro-life story actually began when my mom was pregnant with me. And I knew this story, but I didn't really put a lot of thought into it until about a year and a half ago when I first launched Abundance Ministries. So when my mom was pregnant with me, it was considered a geriatric pregnancy. And so she was advised to have an amniocentesis. And if you don't know what that is, they stick the needle in the mom's belly and they draw amniotic fluid. And then they test that for birth defects. These amniocentesis are not used as much as they were back in the 90s. But so they advised her to do one, and she did. And the doctor called my parents on a Friday night and said, "This isn't looking good. I'm so sorry. This isn't looking good. And come to the office. We need to talk about the results." And so the doctor told my parents that I was going to be born with spina bifida. They gave me that diagnosis in utero, that I would never walk. I'd be confined to a wheelchair. And my parents would be caring for me the rest of their lives. And I have two older sisters. And so the doctor gave my parents the option of abortion. And thankfully, my parents chose life for me. They didn't even give that a consideration at all. And they were willing to totally lay down their lives for me, regardless of what that looked like. So when I was born, actually, nothing was wrong with me. I'm totally fine. What we found out through a lot of testing when I was little was the doctor poked my cheek with the needle. So on my left side, you can see I have a dimple.
Wow. And okay, I didn't know this part. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So you can see in MRI imaging the track mark from the needle, and he poked my cheek and drew blood, and that's how they got the incorrect diagnosis.
Wow.
That I very easily could have been aborted for a misdiagnosis.
That's just crazy to me because your story is so important because it shows that there are so many misdiagnoses, and just because that it comes back and it says, oh, your child has Down syndrome or spina bifida, and the doctors feel like they're so certain about it, that's just not a reason to have an abortion. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, no wonder you're so pro-life. Wow.
I know. And I did know about this, but I didn't put two and two together until I launched Abundance. Fast forward to 2020, I had my daughter at 30 weeks. And so she was born 10 weeks early, was in the NICU for 37 days, and she was born at 3 pounds. And so when the heartbeat bill took effect in September of 2021 here in Texas, I, for the first time, literally broke down in tears and was heartbroken for moms in crisis. And I thought I saw my daughter at 30 weeks, and most don't get to see their babies at that stage. And she was no less of a baby than she would be a little chunkier.
Absolutely. Wow. That's just I mean, it is crazy how through our personal experiences, our pro-life opinions and our pro-life views start to take shape. And not even just the views, but then the action that you want to put into it. And I know that that's something that Abundance is really focused on, which we'll definitely like dive into later. But why don't you share with everyone too, how you got connected with Let Them Live first? And this is something I never remember. I never remember how people get connected, but how did you first find us? That's what I want to know.
Yeah. So I actually found you guys, I don't even remember how long ago. So right after the Heartbeat Bill took effect, I really started getting involved in the pro-life movement. And I joined Sidewalk Advocates for Life and trained as a sidewalk advocate and stuff. So I started following a lot of pro-life organizations and profiles on Instagram and Facebook and just taking in everything that I could. So I think that that's when I started following Let Them Live, because you guys were popping up on my feed constantly. And I really found your content valuable. So I started I followed Let Them Live, and then I started following you, Emily. And then we didn't really connect on a personal level until you posted that you and Nathan went to St. Augustine, and that's where my family
Yes,
lives.
I remember that. Yeah, we went for the Christmas lights in St. Augustine, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is going to be the cutest video. And then Haley, you reached out to me and you're like, hey, like my family's in St. Aug. And so we ended up meeting up. And the thing I loved when I met with you, Haley, was just your desire to do more. And I felt like that was very similar to me when we started Let Them Live, was really wanting to do something, but maybe not knowing how to start or where to start. And I felt that kind of kindred spirit. And then it was that moment that I realized that there really is there's sort of a missing link in the pro-life movement. And that link is where organizations that are already established or leaders that are already established, we should be helping other organizations and new leaders to get off the ground and just offer any advice that we have, things that we've learned from, things that we, say, oh, don't do this. We did this and it didn't work. So that the movement as a whole can flourish. Let's get into the nitty gritty about Abundance Ministries. Why don't you talk about, you touched on a little bit of how and, why it got started, but tell us your mission, tell us what you've been doing, just give us the full everything.
Yeah. So when I first launched Abundance Ministries, so I'm a hairstylist by trade. I've been in the industry for 10 years. I just thought, okay, I'll do a little ministry kind of organization in our church. I did not expect it to be a full-blown nonprofit. So I thought that we would just have a tiny little ministry and that would be great. And we'd do our part. But as I was getting things organized, God quickly spoke to me and said, this needs to go nationwide. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And everything started falling into place for it to go nationwide. And so I'm like, okay. So out of obedience, that's what I did. I established the 501c3. That was founded February 5th of 2022. And so we've been up and running for about 17 months now. We have supported 19 moms and 20 babies. One of the moms had twins, so that's why it's one more baby. And we basically want to be the missing link between churches and crisis pregnancy, the capital C church. I think that there's a lot of value and a lot of need in being bold. And that's one thing that I think churches in general kind of shy away from and don't really want to talk about the hard things, don't want to talk about a crisis, no matter what that is. And so I just have found a lot of churches don't have a pro-life organization or don't have a pro-life outreach, whether it's just in the church or partnering with a nonprofit. And so we want to be action-oriented and compassionate in our approach and just truly come alongside women facing crisis.
Yeah, I think that's so important too, because the churches and maybe just pro-life people in general, this was kind of what I was feeling maybe when I was like in college, was I'm pro-life, I'm so passionate about it, but what do I do? Like, what's the next step? How do I put that into action? And nonprofits in Abundance can go into churches and say, hey, are you pro-life? Awesome. If you should be, if you're a church, there should be no exception there. And that's a whole other story, but you're pro-life. Here's how you can funnel that into action.
Yeah. Yeah. And the thing that I love is that it's not just for churches too. So it's anybody throughout the community who finds out about us. But that's the main thing, is bridging that gap between the church and crisis pregnancy. And we help women through multiple ways. Our slogan is fulfill needs, equip families, and share hope. And that's capital H, hope. And that's very intentional. So we fulfill needs and meet them where they're at in the midst of their crisis, and equip them with what they need so they can choose life for their baby. And then through that relationship that's built, then we can share hope.
I think that's absolutely amazing. I think there's always going to be a need to help women that are pregnant, and I think there's always going to be a need to be there for them. What I know we've talked about this a little. Oh, you and I have talked about this a lot, but we touched on it a little bit here. What's your approach to collaboration and partnership within the pro-life movement?
Yeah. As I have found when I first launched Abundance Ministries, there is such a need for collaboration. So, and that really clicked with me when I actually went to the gala for Let Them Live, back in May. And I was just so amazed to see everybody come together and rally around Let Them Live. And, through us working together, and actually we have received, a referral for a mom from Let Them Live. So she's a Let Them Live mom, and she's an abundance mom. And so through that, we can holistically meet all of her needs. And so, yeah, there's a huge need for collaboration and partnership. And I think that each organization has their own ways to go about supporting women. And through that, like I said, holistically, they get the support that they need. And it's not competition. The main goal is to help mom and save baby. And that's what we do. So
I think one time oh, go ahead. No, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I think one time you told me, and I don't know if this is in a text or a voice text, but you said something like, a life saved, like a baby saved, is a win for us all. You said it way better than that, but I was like, that is so true. Because it would be crazy to think that one organization could fulfill every single need all the time without fail for every single mom. And that's just not going to get us ahead. And that's not going to create real change. So I love what you talked about with competition. I don't see Let Them Live in competition with any other organization besides Planned Parenthood and the National Abortion Federation and, National Network of Abortion Funds. Like, those are our competition because we're in competition for lives. There's a huge network of untapped donors who are potential donors who are pro-life that aren't currently donating to nonprofits. There's no shortage of support that's out there. And I agree with you. That's why I want to have you. I want to showcase other nonprofits because we're all doing amazing work and we work together. So
yeah,
I love your approach. I think that was one thing that really got us connected right away, was just this collaborative approach.
Yeah, definitely.
So, we've talked about what you do with Abundance. Why don't you kind of paint the picture? Like, what do you see happening in the next 5 years, 10 years? And I always hate this question because it's not like you have a crystal ball, but you do have a vision. So why don't you share that vision? I'd love to hear it.
Yeah. So currently, one of the many ways that we help moms through fulfilling needs is we provide shopping events. And these events are new or gently used items, everything from cribs, bassinets, high chairs, swings, strollers, baby clothes, blankets, breast pumps, literally everything that mom and baby need within that first year. We also provide diapers and wipes for up to 6 months. So one of the things that I see and that we see for Abundance moving forward in the next 5 years is that we actually want to move from these shopping events to storefronts and be able to have an actual brick and mortar location where moms can come and still shop for items for free, but that we have a physical location rather than setting up these events that are twice a year or, quarterly. So that's our eventual goal. So then we can have storefronts, all over Texas, all over the US. So we're starting to go down that that path.
I love that. And I think that's so beautiful because it not only gives the churches and pro-life people a place to put their time and energy into making a beautiful space and ensuring that moms have everything that they need, but it also gives the moms a sense of like, just in working with moms, I know that a lot of moms hate having to ask for help, right? It really pains them to have to reach out to Let Them Live and say, hey, I'm going to need help. And so to give them a piece of something that feels just so nice and you can go in and you can shop and you can pick things, what a wonderful feeling to give them so that they can feel excited about their baby.
Yeah. Yeah, that's something that we definitely want to take it from crisis to celebration. So, once they choose life for their baby, that they can feel loved on and celebrated. And we do that at the shopping events, but then we can do it every day in our storefronts. And we also want to move to postpartum, basically, programs. So we want to implement a doula program. We want to implement postpartum support. So our volunteers can go and hold baby while mom sleeps or do dishes for her, help out in the practical ways as well. And then also open up Bible study opportunities for moms to kind of have almost like a MOPS group where they can interact with other moms and babies and support each other.
I think that the postpartum support too is a really crucial piece. And I keep looking because there's a bug on my wall. I think that's such a crucial piece, especially for those single moms who, maybe they're new moms and they don't necessarily know, certain things they need to learn and maybe need some help or some advice, but sleep, like you cannot overemphasize the need for sleep when you're a new mom. And you're also going through a lot of hormonal changes too. You got that postpartum depression or postpartum anxiety that a lot of moms deal with, and having someone there with you to kind of walk you through that would be extremely helpful. So I'm excited to see everything that Abundance is going to be doing, because you guys are going to really provide, and any mom would be so lucky to have that support.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. And I know you said that you've helped 19 moms and 20 babies. That's so exciting. I love that there's twins in there. We started seeing twins and triplets pop in and out, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. But can you share maybe one or two out of all those moms, a success story or just like something that from them that really hit you and close to home?
Yeah. One of them actually, like I said, was a Let Them Live mom. And it was just really cool to see her story unfold. Honestly, one of Let Them Live's counselors actually reached out to me. Small world again. I went to high school with her, and so she reached out to me and said, "Hey, I know that you started Abundance. She's near your area. Can you take her on as well?" So she became an Abundance mom, and we had her come to our last shopping event in April, and she got everything that she needed for her baby. And she was just literally in tears. She could not stop crying. And she's just so thankful that her needs were fulfilled. And she actually is outside of San Antonio a little bit, but we told her, you can still be in our diaper and wipe program for 6 months. We will provide that. And she was just shocked that we would still fulfill those needs, even though she was outside the perimeter a little bit. But I'm like, no, I'm not going to let you go without. So we agreed to set up a way to make that happen for her. So it's just really, really sweet and very rewarding to see. Again, in crisis, there's a lot of tears, right? But to see the tears of joy and tears of peace, I have chills right now just thinking about it. It's unbelievable. Another mom who came to our shopping event and we're currently supporting, she actually has 3 children. Her baby, when we met her, was 2 months old, and she's also post-abortive. So she had an abortion between her most recent baby and her middle one. And she just said, I would never do that again. And so just talking to her the first time that I did an intake with her and heard her story, we were on the phone for an hour and a half. And that was just like so so raw and so real. And it broke my heart, but then it gave me more fuel to my fire. Like, this is exactly why I do what I do. I don't want another mom to go through feeling like that. And
Yeah.
she was saying the emotional and the physical pain that she went through.
Yeah.
And just that she was brave to have her last child, even though it was another crisis, but she chose life, and we're there to walk alongside her.
And these stories are so important because it like, what's the word I'm looking for? It humanizes the mom. It's not just a random mom that you hear off, in the distance or whatever. This is an actual person with actual struggles. And I think that's the same thing with Let Them Live. That makes me just like sometimes my heart skip a beat, or get chills of, oh my gosh, this poor mom. Like, I can't imagine, the situation that she's in. And it takes it from just being someone who you don't really know to someone that you just want to help with anything and everything. And so I could definitely relate on that. As an organization, you're helping these moms, you're connecting with churches. Like, what would your biggest need or your biggest like top 3 needs be?
As an organization?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
As an organization, we need funding. A new organization, we're limited, right? We're limited on donors, and we're limited on grants. We haven't been able to come into contact with the right grant yet. So we are operating on limited resources. And so that's our biggest need right now, for us to expand to that level, to be able to get the storefronts, to be able to do more shopping events than just 2 a year. And then with that, we'll be able to grow our numbers, grow our impact. So funding is the biggest thing. We also need more volunteers. So we have every kind of opportunity, everything from admin type volunteer opportunities to actually being on the front lines and interacting with our moms. And the third thing is just awareness. So following us on social media, sharing it with friends and family of just who we are and what we do. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's so important too, that I can't stress it enough. Funding is so important. And sometimes it's, weird or awkward to talk about money, but the reality of being in pro-life work and running a pro-life nonprofit is that donations directly correlate to lives saved and people
Yes.
supported. I mean, that's literally what we need. So if you are hearing this, please go. What is your website, Haley?
Yeah, it's www.abundanceministry.org.
abundanceministry.org to donate. I am a monthly donor, which is exciting. So I would encourage everyone to sign up, even if it's $10 a month, 15, 20, whatever it is, every little bit helps. How can, I know you had mentioned social media, but how can you share your Instagram and your, what are they called? You can tell how much I'm like up with social media. Your Instagram handle.
Your handle? Yes. So the ministry's handle is abundance.ministries.
Perfect.
IES.
Ministries. Okay, yeah, go give them a follow. And if is that the best place for people to stay up to date on everything you're doing?
Yes. And we also have a toll-free number. All of that information is on our website. That's 24/7 for everybody, volunteers, giving, moms, if you know someone in crisis, and that always comes to me. So awesome. It's all confidential.
So you know that you're in good hands too.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Haley, for being on and sharing about abundance. Again, guys, go to www.abundanceministry.org to learn more, connect, and donate. Oh my gosh. Thank you again, Haley.
Thank you.
Yes. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for joining us on today's episode of the Let Them Live podcast. I would like to give a special shout out to Patrick at Moon Shadow Studios, who does an amazing job of editing our podcast. If you're ever in the need for a podcast editor, he is definitely the one to go to. Let Them Live is a Christian nonprofit dedicated to supporting women who are considering abortion primarily due to financial burden. 73% of women have abortions because of financial struggles, and we're here to help bridge that gap. Our goal is to provide the emotional and financial support these women need to feel empowered to choose life. If our cause resonates with you and you're interested in learning more, getting involved, or making a donation, please visit our website at www.letthemlive.org. One amazing way to contribute is by joining our Heartbeat Club, where you can become a monthly donor, and your ongoing support will ensure that we can continue helping women every single month. You can also follow us on social media to stay up to date with all the amazing stories and ways that you can be part of our mission. You can also find me on Instagram at Emily Burning. Thank you again for listening, and please join us for more upcoming inspiring stories and conversations.